the 2018 Mercedes-Benz E350. This is Merc's 5th generation E-Class sedan, which began production in the early line of 2016. Now the E-Class is the sedan that happens to nestle itself neatly between the C-Class and the S-Class. It sort of looks like an E-Class and an S-Class sort of had a baby, and I'm not exactly sure how I would follow up with that fact considering that's almost borderline ancestry. This exact model is the base E300, meaning it has the bare bones features which you can get starting up from the build your own Mercedes line. And that pretty much means that it's got no heated seats, no blind spot assists, no full digital display, and definitely no autopilot feature. But the thing is, even in bare bones, this car does start at a pretty hefty price tag at about $53,000. And this exact base model is, again, the E300, which includes a 4-cylinder turbo, which outputs approximately 241 horsepower to the crank. And both E300 and the 400 feature Merc's 9G 9-speed transmission, which includes a pretty impressive performance with almost dual clutch-like capabilities, especially when you're putting these things in both sport modes, which includes Sport and my favorite mode, Sport Jesus. So right now we're just going to go over a couple of the additional features which you can actually add on to your E300 should you choose to opt out and build your own E300. And like I said, since this is a base model, there is no premium package, and if you did want to step it up to things like heated seats, the Burmester speakers, the keyless go, and the blind spot detection, you're going to spend about $3,700 to add up to another tier. Eventually it all adds up to the most expensive package, which is actually an additional $10,200 on top of the base MSRP price. So you can see this thing going probably to almost a $70,000 to $80,000 vehicle really fast. Some of the cool features that I do like about the car. So here next to the invisible heated seat button has this little diagram which shows a little chair with the letter R next to it. And curiosity got the best of me, so I had no idea what it did. So I pressed it and nothing happened. I thought R meant like reassign seat or something, I don't know, readjustment of a seat, which to my knowledge actually didn't do anything until I started pressing the actual button and found out that, lo and behold, it actually controls the front passenger side seat. Which is a kind of a cool feature considering the fact that you don't have to reach all the way over to adjust your seat if someone does ride in your car and they happen to adjust their seating position to a favorite blind spot of yours. Another feature that I liked about the car are the steering wheel buttons, which actually feature controls for both the center console display and the main command display. So you got this, and it's kind of like, I don't know, in a sense, kind of like a smartphone type of button. So as you go on up and down, you can scroll, go through all the various features that you have in the car over here. That's happening in real time. Same thing with this side too. If you don't like the speedometer gauge, you can always check up your fuel economy, consumptions, distance till empty. Now, they really wanted to give people such a high dynamic range of control with the setting that they have here on the console. They didn't give you 2 options to control things like regular cars. They actually gave you 4. And I'm going to show you right now just exactly where that falls into. So like what I had before was, you know, the right side control of the center computer, which controls the center command. Not only that, but you also have here in the center console a click wheel, which kind of reminds me of the good old-fashioned iPod click wheel, if anyone remembers that. So you can use that too, and you can also type with it, select things. You got the back button here. So you have the center button as well as the middle console, so you can still control things by the push of a button and mess around with even some of the outer dynamic features of the screen. So that's 3 out of 4. So we got the steering wheel, the center buttons, the click wheel, and then this little weird Palm Pre looking thing over here is pretty much the same feature as the click wheel. Like, you can still see that scroll up and down, swipe things to the right, turn things on and off. It even has another back button, which is kind of weird considering the back button is right there too. Your home button and a play button to skip a song if something is playing on your iPad or whatever you have plugged in. I mean, I thought that was kind of a neat feature, not really super necessary. I guess they wanted to cater to everyone's comfort zone with controlling Mercedes-Benz's command display. And I actually have to applaud Mercedes with their command display because it's actually fairly easy to use. It's fairly easy to pick up on. It kind of follows like an XMB style like you'd see in like a PlayStation 4 or something. So just like what I mentioned earlier, this car does have the 9G transmission from Mercedes. And unlike what most companies are going towards nowadays, which is usually the dual clutch setup, this actually is the regular good old transmission with the torque converter. Dual clutch transmissions tend to be a little bit more heavier, more expensive to maintain, plus in a sense they're not as reliable as a good old fashioned normal transmission with a regular torque converter. even though this is a regular transmission, this 9G transmission is nothing short but phenomenal. It shifts pretty much just as fast, if not almost exactly like a dual clutch. You can tell, especially in sport mode, sport plus mode, it really kicks you in the ass. The funny thing about this transmission is that when you do select the dynamic mode to economy rather than sport plus, I think the car actually tends to shift faster. But not only faster, but it's much smoother, much more buttery like with the transitions between the shifts. Which is kind of strange because, you know, with the economy side of things, with the dynamic selector, you'd think that economy would actually be more, you know, more conservative with their speed and performance. When on the other hand, it's actually quite the contrary, and it actually has a better performing resonance in the Sport Plus mode. One of the fun things about the car, though, include the option to change the command system to display your engine data, which you can actually actively look at how much horsepower and torque your car is currently generating through the engine. So if I were to floor it, it actually goes past the advertised horsepower rating, which is 241. Then again, I'm not exactly sure how accurate that little gauge is, but it's nice to look at. And the other option too that goes along with that setting, the dynamic select feature, is the vehicle data. So here you have a little display of your car, and it shows it's on a little track. And if you can see the steering angle indicator there, it tells you just the degree of turning of the angle that your front wheels are at, as well as a little G meter there. If you see the little ball moving around, that's your lateral G meter. It's a pretty neat feature to have in such a basic, normal car, but you know, these cars are designed for performance, especially when running on the Autobahn in Germany. So every single dynamic feature actually has its own setting too. So if you go to Sport, it's pretty similar to the Sport Plus edition, except that the track isn't lined out with red. But you still do get your G meter and the acceleration and brake gauge on the right side. So depending on how hard, you know, you hit the brake or the gas, you'll see that there too. And then going into comfort, it's all the same except no G meter, just turning gauge and accelerating and brake. Lastly, ending with comfort, which just shows kind of nothing, just like a flowing green, like, wave. So here's some of the things that I really didn't like about the car, and there's really not that much. So these are just small pet peeves, and I'm pretty sure that these won't apply to too many people. I'm just really particular with this, but starting off is this little bump here, which houses the little locking indicator for the doors. Some cars, you know, nowadays have a little indicator here and the little well where the handle is, but Benz continues to still use sort of the older-fashioned up and down stick on the inner part of the door. And the reason why it bugs me is because I'm one of those drivers that likes to sit like this sometimes while driving, and when you extend your elbow to someone like, I don't know, my size, I'm only about 5'11", but that bump kind of distracts that comfort point. I wouldn't really recommend anyone driving like this because it's not exactly the best part to put your arm in, especially in a collision. But if you're, you know, cruising at a nice long highway speed and you're the only car there, it's kind of nice to put your elbow up here. So that little gripe over here is one of the things that I didn't like. And the other thing I didn't like about the car were the basic features that you didn't really get with the car, and the fact that even though I do live in South Florida, sometimes in that nice period of 3 weeks of coldness, you do like to enjoy some of the finer things in life, like the unused feature, which is the heated seats. And this didn't have it. Like I said earlier, it is a base model E300. This one isn't exactly packed with features. It doesn't even have the Burmester speakers here, but it's got a really strange, irrational set of features for this car. Now, for example, it doesn't have heated seats, but it's got automatic parking assist. So the car can park for you, it's just, we're not going to give you any heated seats. And to add on to that awareness feature that this car does have, so the car does park for you, it does have the intelligent cruise control. And the fact that this doesn't have that blind spot monitoring system, kind of strange in my eyes. I don't need it. I mean, my car is a 2005Z, so my car is completely prehistoric in comparison to the E300. It'd be nice to have a $50,000 sedan with at least the bare minimum of safety. A random fun fact about this car is that this car does utilize the pre-safe technology from Mercedes-Benz. And if you're not really sure what the pre-safe feature is it's actually a pink noise that emits from the speakers that only happens when you're in an unavoidable crash that is pretty much impending on you. So the thing that happens is right before your car hits another car, or whenever that collision's about to happen, the speakers emit what Mercedes-Benz calls a kind of like a pink noise, kind of like a staticky pink noise, which psychologically and physically kind of prepares you for the crash, subconsciously lowers your expectation or the surpriseness of the crash. Most people don't really see a crash happening. Some do, but sometimes if you're getting T-boned or rear-ended, you're probably sitting on your phone texting or looking at your little display or whatever. But that white noise kind of weakens the load that's about to affect you in the event of a collision in a car. Unlike 3 different climates per different portions of the car. You know, just in case you want your neck to be at 70 degrees and your nutsack to be at 40.